kabataan, ang pag-asa ng bayan.
Pag-asa ng bayan.
Kunyari may isa kang pangarap, anong pinagdarasal mo?
Kapag high school.
Magtutuloy ka ba sa high school?
Oo, po.
Bakit?
Wala akong pera.
Ano na ng pera?
Wala akong pambili ng mga t-shirt.
Hi, Dad. Sana matulungan mo ako pagtapos ng pag-aaral ko. Gusto ko po sana maging doktor.
Yun na lang ang anuhin ko sa sarili ko. Kakayanin yung mga tulong. Para maano ko lang sila, masuportahan ko sila magkapatid. Kasi ayoko matulad sila sa akin, trabaho ko lang. Trabaho bar, waitress. Kasi mahirap yun.
Ayoko po magtrabaho sa bar. Tulad po ng nanay ko, ayoko pong magtrabaho sa bar. Yung grade 2 po lang pinagtapos po. Sana po ano lang po ako magtrabaho sa doktor po ako. Yun lang po.
Akala ko ba ayaw mong gayahin yung mama mo, bakit nagguguhit kilay ka na rin? Tapos tingnan mo, pula pa yung Piotex mo, ha? Okay, sige, di ba, hindi ka palagi pumapasok. Ano yung magiging kinabukasan mo, yung future mo? Gusto mo bang patulad sa mama mo? Hindi. Ano yung gusto mong maging paglaki mo? Ano yung...
Kasi para maging doktor ako, para makatulong ako sa pamilya ko, maganda kinabukasan ko.
Millions of children in the Philippines are forced to work at a young age. Child labor is one of the Philippines' most urgent problems and stems from a range of social factors. Some children have jobs that place them in immediate physical danger. These risks include exposure to lead in the production of stained glass, construction, or glasswork. Poverty is a root cause of child labor. Larger families in Metro Manila who cannot afford to live in a private land and support their basic necessities are usually the ones who are exposed to child labor. Families who struggle to make ends meet normally send their children to work at a young age to help increase their income. Most of the time, children drop out of school in order to focus full-time on their jobs. They are often pressured by their relatives to just choose having a job over attending school for them to earn and put food on the table. The International Labour Organizations, or ILO, and International Programme on the Elimination of Child Labour, or IPEC, defines child labour as a situation wherein a child is pressured to work to be able to earn money that will help their family to eat and obtain their basic necessities.
Child labor has many faces, has devastated many young lives. The last decade has seen their numbers decline, with 30 million fewer working children globally. But there are still an estimated 215 million girls and boys who start their days at work in a mine or a field rather than a classroom.
We go to the tobacco field, then we go to bed, and then follows the same. We wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Today, according to the International Labour Organization, more than half of all child laborers are in the most hazardous forms of work. Some 60% are in agriculture, domestic work, or street vending. At even greater risk are children in commercial sexual exploitation, slavery, and forced labor, including those forced to serve as child soldiers. In 2006, the goal to eliminate these worst forms of child labor seemed within reach. However, in the last 4 years, child labor numbers have decreased only by 7 million, a mere 3%.
We are still making progress, but that progress is too slow. We still have 215 million children working in child labor. 115 million of those are in the worst forms of child labor. That's far too many, and the progress is far too slow for us to meet the goal of eliminating the worst forms of child labor by 2016.
Some countries, though hit by economic crisis, kept child labor at bay through programs that link social protection, education, health, and income. In Brazil, the Bolsa Familia program gives cash transfers to 12 million families who keep their children in school. In India, the world's largest school lunch program means poor rural children have a meal instead of work to look forward to each day.
I would tell kids who are working that we used to work too and waste our time. Now we come to school every day. Coming to school made us more intelligent.
Child labor has many faces, faces that are waiting to take their turn at a better future.
These work are said to damage or stop the development of each child that they need in order to grow. Child labor causes premature adulthood because of the responsibility that are passed to children who are supposed to be at school, learning and growing. ILO devotes its time and resources to be able to uphold the dignity of workers internationally. They hold the rights of humans and laborers in the highest importance, for they believe that it is essential to be able to attain social justice universally. The RA 7658, or Act Prohibiting the Employment of Children Below 15 Years of Age in Public and Private Undertakings, protects children from hazardous work environments and or occupations that deprive them from schooling. Without immediate action, the problem will continue to grow. As long as the government lacks to supply job opportunities in the poverty-stricken areas of Metro Manila as well as other provinces in the Philippines, families who struggle on money will have to utilize every resources that may provide their basic necessities.
Lost in the green sugarcane field, the red hat of a little boy bobs as he works. Pulling weeds, tilling the soil, barefoot. 7 hours a day in the scorching heat of the Philippines. Dante Campolan is 14. He's been working in the field since he was just 7. It's very hard to work here, he says. I'd rather go to school. Next to him, 13-year-old Alvik James, who dropped out of school when he was in the first grade so he could work.
Why are so many children working in the fields?
To earn money, he says, so we can buy food for our families. But it's illegal for children their age to work such long hours. At 15 or 16, they graduate to cutting the sugarcane, like Elmar Paran.
Have you gone to school at all?
No school means no skills for other types of work, a future fit only for the fields. The young Ibutang are part of an entire economic system that steals their childhood. Angeles Penda is the landowner who hires the children.
You're seeing the children work in the field. Why let children work in the field?
The parents beg us to include their children to work, she says, Work like this often done by children in fields throughout the region. The children who labor in these fields produce the sugar sold on the global market. From there, it ends up on your kitchen table, your morning coffee. It's even in this bottle of Coke. The International Labor Organization estimates there are about 2.4 million child workers in the Philippines, many of them in rural areas where families live in such poverty that parents require their kids to work. Many child laborers work in dangerous conditions like this charcoal field, choking air, their faces covered in soot, bagging charcoal for pennies. The Philippines government has launched a major campaign hoping to end this. By 2015, the government wants to reduce the worst forms of child labor by 75%. A tough goal, says the Sugar Industry Foundation, which openly admits the industry has problems.
Well, we do not deny that child labor exists in our industry. It's a practice among families who are paid piecemeal for their work. They like to deploy their children because then there's more income for the families. There's a long-term solution, and it's really education.
That's why the Sugar Industry Foundation and the Coke Foundation are building this high school. The Coca-Cola company said in a statement that it does not support, encourage, or endorse any form of child labor in our operations throughout our global bottling system or in our supplier network. The company went on to say, specifically in the Philippines, we are supporting multi-stakeholder initiatives to remove children from sugarcane fields and enroll them in education programs. Education is a potent weapon. This region is experimenting with an alternative learning system where children go to school only 2 days a week because they have to work in the fields. Dante gives nearly all of his day's pay, $3.50, to his mother. When I grow up, I would love to go away from here, he says. But with the realities here, it may only be a dream.
One of the social problems faced by the Philippines today is the increase of child labor cases in both rural and urban areas. People aged 18 years old below are considered minors and must not engage into any working activity and are therefore illegal. Republic Act 9231 is a law passed on December 19, 2013. It provides for special protection of children from all forms of abuse, neglect, cruelty, exploitation, and discrimination, and other conditions prejudicial to their development, including child labor in its worst forms. This social problem is very significant for the reason that child labor in the country continues to get worse and is not getting any better.
Nagsugod ko trabaho, live and rest all. Kay kaya lain kay net do, duga kalayo daw.
Pamatdan kay kunti sa aga kapilas ko, nang kakaygo lang ako niya tiin. Kunti sa aga tabog balang sanggot daw.
Ang mga bata hindi pinipilit na magtrabaho, pero yung mga bata mismo ang gustong magtabang sa kanilang mga ginikanan para makabuligid nga magdako ang income. Dapat sa eskwelahan kag hindi sa camp para nga makakuha sila sa maayo nga future sa uni.
Nami ang magpugula sa kampo para may kwarta ko kag ibulig ko sa ako na mga magulang. Natago sa kay mama ko kag natago sa mamangod ko kag ipabakal sila ng ng pagkaon.
LIP is livelihood, education, advocacy, and protection. Ang LIP is nagahatag sang mga livelihood intervention sa household. Then sa advocacy, gahatag man kami advokasya sa mga awareness sa mga parents sa kabataan. Para nga mabuligan ang mga kabataan nga hindi na sila mag-obra sa kampo.
Catholic social teaching tells us that we should live in a fair society. The children being involved in this child labor goes against the Church Catholic social teachings of life and dignity of the human person, as well as option for the poor and the vulnerable. The value of life of a human person are indifferent from each other. No matter the contrasting beliefs, we must uphold every individual's sanctity. The dignity of a human person is the foundation of a moral vision for society. These Catholic social teachings are about protecting and helping people who needs the most help.